Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Maxwell Construction, who has been our sponsor since the very beginning. For over 30 years, Maxwell has delivered the highest quality projects by holding to their core values of customer satisfaction, positive attitude, respect, and excellence. So if you have any kind of commercial construction need, give Maxwell Construction a call today at 812-537-2200. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families, with my friend and counselor, Merle.
Friend and counselor?
Yes.
How about husband?
Well, friend and counselor fits better with our topic today.
Oh, you're working it again.
I am.
You're working it again. You're always combining.
We are laser focused today on the last season of our parenting series. And this is my favorite season. Well, actually, yes, there's my favorite season because they are adults now.
They're not your problem.
And now we're friends. So yes, we're excited. So if you have a child that is anywhere in this age bracket from 0 to 45, I don't know where you stop.
What are you saying?
I'm like,
this age bracket.
It's like if you're a parent, how about that? If you're a parent, keep listening because there's different seasons and we are in the final season. And so if you've just now tuning in, if you've not gone and listened to the other ones, please do. Even if you have adult children, you probably have grandchildren. And so to really understand like the different seasons and how you parent changes based on their age and what season you're in.
Yeah, this is the season where you start to hear phrases like empty nesters and, they fly the coop and things like that. And, the failure to launch, these are where these phrases come from this season. So this, like you said, it is the fourth season. So this is really the season of 21 and older kind of thing.
So you have a family member, a cousin that literally put on something on Facebook of a big announcement. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, like they're pregnant or whatever. Their kids were adults. And here they literally had a little nest. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see
They had a little nest and they were all excited. They were like giddy because they sent their last one to college. And so they were like, the empty nest. And so, that's a time to celebrate. So
we did that once.
We did that once.
Yeah,
and
we
then
did
we decided that we were bored, I guess, and just decided to go back into a different season. Actually, we went from the fourth season all the way back to number two.
Season two. Yeah.
All right. So we've parented in 2 generations, actually.
Yeah. I'm not sure we did very good the first time around. Now we're coming back around. Anyway, hey, we are going to go through this. But before we do, let's thank our sponsors. And then we'll really get into what this is about. And again, talking about the seasons and then what is our role. And then what are we actually seeing out of the kids, the children that are growing. Okay. Yeah. So we would like to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Maxwell Construction for coming alongside of Rock Solid Radio. So thanks to these companies, our local businesses here that just believe and support the ministry here at Rock Solid Families, as well as the messaging that comes out through Rock Solid Radio. So we want to thank those guys. Can't say it enough. You guys are going to hear some kind of messaging. What kind of messaging do you want to hear? And, if you listen and wait for Hollywood to give that, well, you can kind of see what the net result has been of that. And so we really just want to push healthy families here and good, strong marriages and just taking care of yourself and honoring God.
Yeah. And we also want to remind you that we have an exciting parenting series coming up at East Central High School in St. Leon, Indiana. If you live in the Cincinnati tri-state area, this messaging is for you. And if you're listening to this in 2023, then you've missed it because it's in September of 2022. All the Wednesdays, in September, we are going to be at the East Central High School Performing Arts Center presenting different topics on parenting, some of them that we're kind of talking about in this series, but kind of elaborated on. And so it's from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Childcare is provided, provided that they are potty trained. But we are really excited about that, although the flyers came today. Like they were supposed to be half a sheet, and they're
trying to save money again, aren't you?
So if your child brings a flyer home and
it's going to look like a postage stamp. You'll have to get some glasses out.
A telescope, or not a telescope, a microscope to read it. That's because it was not designed to be that small. But anyway, we are excited about that. And so you don't have to sign up ahead of time. Just come, and you don't have to come to all of them. You can come to any or all of the above, but there's going to be parent incentives where your family can win a package, a movie package, dinner package, an adventure package. And also you can help to raise money for your teacher by really just your presence counting toward teacher grants that a teacher can get based on the number of parents or any adult. It doesn't have to even be the parent. It could be somebody that represents that teacher and really help that teacher to win some money for their classroom.
I want to make a quick statement about the location. It is at East Central High School. And so many of you that listen are not right where we are from here in St. Leon, Indiana, which is actually where East Central is. But don't let the Indiana thing scare you. East Central High School is probably between 20 and 25 minutes from the west side of Cincinnati. I mean, it is that fast. We can get to that Harrison Avenue exit in about less than 25 minutes. And so my point being here is it's all interstate. Don't let the Indiana thing scare you. It's very easy to get to, all right? And the facility is amazing. The Performing Arts Center that we will be speaking in, it's amazing. So the whole thing is just going to be a good setting. You're not going to be going out into the boondocks to hear us.
So also we want to remind you that we have an online coaching program called Rock Solid Marriage that is available for couples who are really wanting to take their marriage to the next level. Maybe they're struggling. Maybe they feel stuck. Maybe they're kind of feel like they're slowly fading, where a lot of couples do. They feel like after 20, 30 years, like, is this all there is? And so this program that we developed, we've written and we've recorded, and we've developed this 7-step program. It's a 10-week intensive that really has homework every week, and we meet coach with a couple client every other week. And so if that's something that you're interested in, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org. We're here to help your whole family.
For any of you men that are listening, don't let the homework part scare you, okay? Us men are like, oh, really? And so, I mean, it's very useful practices that we will have people go through each week. It's useful, it's practical, it makes sense. And so, if we can help you out that way, come join us.
Yeah, that's the teacher in us, right?
Okay, so let's get into what we're going to talk about today. So as we've talked about from the get-go, we've pulled all of the structure of the seasons came from John Roseman's work, and this is in Parenting by the Book, and he broke the parenting into 4 seasons, okay? And we have walked through these 4 seasons, which the first one was service, the 0 to 2 years of age. The second one was really that 2-ish to about 13, where we were talking about the mentoring, leadership and authority. And the third one was at 13 to 18 to 21, and that is the mentoring, okay? And we spoke about that last week. This week is the 21 plus, okay? In other words, when they're ready to leave the nest, or at least by developmental age, they should be ready, okay? And this is referred to as emancipation, okay? And you might look up the legal definition of emancipation, but we're going to talk about emancipation from the idea of, are they ready to take care of themselves on their own? Are they responsible enough? Do they know what to do? Can they, or do they have to still be attached to you? And as we've said all along, none of these are seasons that are flipped off and on with a light switch. They're really a transitioning kind of time. And so this season here doesn't start the day they hit 18 or the day they hit 21. It really is a progression of what you've done in the previous 3 seasons. Okay?
And again, we're assuming that your child has the ability to care for themselves. We know there's special situations. But again, I want to kind of bring up Sarah. And I told her that we were going to mention her. And Sarah, I know you're listening because she is one of our rock star listeners who tells us that she listens to all our shows. And she made fun of you the other day about your singing.
What else is new? Thanks, Sarah.
And
love your support.
Yeah, but she was just talking about how she appreciates our show. And here this is a young adult, okay, who lives independently on her own with a lot of genetic disabilities that she was born with, that she has grown up with. I mean, she said, I think, over 50 surgeries. And she has very difficulty with verbal communication because of a genetic disability that she has. But this girl is a rock star. She is a young adult who has been emancipated. She graduated from college. She lives on her own. She works, you know, a job of her own. She takes the bus on her own. But this is a girl who has not been limited by her physical disabilities or her limitations. And Sarah, I just want you to know, like, you girl are the poster child of who we're talking about today, that you don't have to be a victim to your circumstances or the disabilities that maybe someone has labeled you with. And so many parents, there's a lot less going on that they, all of a sudden, the parent says, well, you don't know my son, like they're depressed, or, oh, they have a hard time getting a job, or, you know, they're struggling with relationships. And man, us parents, we've got to say, you can do more.
Well, I want to shout out, obviously, to Sarah, because she's the actual one that's dealing with some of those impairments and just how she has to wrap her head around working with those. But really, so much of this, not to take away from Sarah, but goes to her parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because her parents, which they're my cousins, and from the earliest days, I remember when Sarah was born, and I remember all of the concern because you know, it wasn't a healthy situation. We were all concerned, and from the very get-go, my cousin, she was just completely on the ball, her and her husband, of saying, we're not just going to take care of her, we're going to get her to get to the greatest of her potentials. We're going to equip her, and we're not going to hold her back. If she can dream it, we are going to basically try to let her get out there. So this is like a great picture of a kid who wants the freedom and a parent who wants them to have the freedom.
So Sue and Bob, kudos to you for just really thinking outside the box and not really settling for maybe the diagnosis or the limitations, but looking beyond that. And Sarah, kudos to you, girl, for pushing forward through all of those, you know, difficulties and all of those, you know, barriers that you've had to deal with. And so, you know, as we talk about this, you know, this season of parenting, we are talking about how do we help equip our children to be healthy, successful, well-adjusted adults. And that's our goal. And now that they're old enough to be that, and so what are we going to do about that to ensure that success?
Yeah. So really, there's a couple different angles where this can go well or not so well. Okay.
And we've seen both.
And it really kind of is that combination. Like we just called out and basically gave accolades to Sarah and her parents, because those are the two major angles that things are coming from. And so we're going to first talk about just, where parents sometimes get stuck. Okay. And I think it happens more nowadays than it may have 30 or 40 years ago, just because of lots of different things that we've talked about in many different shows. But these are some different things where parents get stuck. And I never really question like these are bad parents with ill intention. No, in fact, they're kind of doubling down on thinking they've got the greatest intentions. All right. But one of the things, or here are several different things that you'll see when your kids are starting to get to this age. So we're 18, 19, 20. Parents still want to weigh in on every decision and experience their kids going through. And they constantly have
Are you talking about me?
Well, we've experienced some of that. And so
I'm recovering.
First time around when we had our older kids, we had two very capable and able-bodied boys. And so I was just
young men.
Yeah, I was like, go do it, man. Go. You're way more capable than I ever dreamt to be at your age. But as we've adopted children, now we have a girl and she's very capable. But I do feel a different level of like, we better watch. We better watch. And so, you know, this is where parents get emotionally tied in to the responsibility of the care versus, how about the growth?
Right.
How about the growth? Because if the care overdoes itself, it will impair the growth.
So I thought you were going to bring up your little favorite made-up word. we've done it on shows before.
I should trademark that word.
You could write it to Webster and maybe, what's your word that we've used before in shows that I think is perfect for this?
It's a usager, all right? So parents can be usagers at this age. In other words, they keep giving unsolicited advice. They're unsolicited advice givers. And so, here you have this 18, 19, 20-year-old, and everything the kid tries to do, the parent has to weigh in on without the kid asking, okay? And that's the key. Now, the beauty is when the kid does ask in a healthy way, not because they're dependent, but they go, hey, Dad, I was kind of thinking, I just want to run this by you.
Right.
Now, that starts to get healthy, and that's where we want to get to.
Yeah.
But the idea that your kid is just thinking about doing something and you have to throw your 2 cents worth down.
Okay, so I'm a recovering usager, okay? And so I have to admit. And so I also have this second one on that it's really a fear of them making a big mistake, almost like there's no turning back, right? Or bad consequence. And so I want to protect them or keep them from those big pitfalls. And sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen, is that they need to have natural consequences. They need to have a failure so they understand like, oh, that didn't work out so well. But sometimes parents are trying to save them from the rescue. We did a whole blog one time and a show too, Are You a Rescue Parent?
Yeah.
And so that's a really important thing of protecting and preventing our kids from really growing up and learning on their own.
Yeah. Again, we're talking they're 18 plus years of age.
Right.
All right. And so this is where, like, when our kid says, you know what, I want to go work at this place. And in your mind, it's all the wrong places to work. Okay. But let them go. Let them go do that. Let them have the experience and do everything you can, especially if it goes wrong, to avoid saying, I told you so.
Yep.
Because that's going to damage the opportunity for this season to really come to maturity.
Yep.
And one of the goals that comes out of this particular season is friendship. This, that whole friendship and the idea that they would seek counsel. That they would seek counsel.
Right.
And so if you are quick to throw things back in their face, you're quick to remind them where they messed up, you will be the last person on their list that they seek help from. And what a shame, because you just blew your chance to have a friendship.
Yeah. And so we see a lot of adults who are very emotionally immature. And so there's a lot of times drama or finger pointing or blame. And so please, as a parent, don't feed that. Don't pour into that. As a matter of fact, I want you to throw water on it. I want you to say, like, where's that coming from? Or I'm not stepping into that landmine, And so this is really important stage to say, you got to figure that out, whether it be a boyfriend, girlfriend issue, or whether it be an employer issue. Please do not call the employer and stand up for your child. Okay. Especially if they're an adult. Like, that's not your job.
That would be so embarrassing if my parent did that.
But I've heard that before. And it's sad.
Yeah. You also have to realize, because many people look forward to empty nesting. Many people resist it. You'll hear parents say, "Man, this is going to be so emotional. Like, I just don't know. Like, this is my last kid in the house." And so they'll do things intentionally or not that keep the child tethered to them. Like, they'll keep paying certain bills, insurances, cell phones, car payments, all right? And so this is this transitioning time where you are making it very loud and clear that you're like, no. So, but think about why you might be doing this. In your mind, you can rationalize, I'm doing this because they need it. In your heart, you're saying, now they're still attached to me. I still have control.
I have one parent who admitted that she still pays their 20-something-year-old phone bill because then she can see where the child's at. They even have Life 360 on them, and the child's not even living in the home anymore. It's like, that's really an unhealthy dynamic for your sake. It's bringing a peace for you. It's not healthy for the child.
You thought the FBI was corrupt. Wow. I mean, that's where it gets to, right? It's a big power play out of insecurity. I think there is this. We see this frequently too, when now the messiness has been going on, and now we bring grandchildren into the picture.
Yeah, whether married or unmarried.
Yeah. And then we have at this time now the grandparents who still can't let the child go, okay,
Right.
the young adult go. And now they really get enmeshed with the raising of the child, how the child should be raised. You know, they spend an absorbent amount of time with them or money with them, okay? And we're just saying here, like, this is not helping your young adult child to grow and become that independent, strong person that you said was important back when they were 3 years old.
Yeah. And let's pause here for a second, because I think some of it is not just insecurity and fear for the child, but it is also insecurity and fear because what's left? What do I have left? Because I've poured my life and my energy and identity into my kids. Maybe sports was their thing, or maybe they were musically inclined, and maybe your marriage was falling apart. And so when that child leaves, what do you got left? And that's why Rock Solid Marriages is so important, because we're literally about, okay, we're going to prioritize God and then your spouse, and your children come underneath that, because someday you want them to leave the nest. And what are you going to have left? And so we really want to focus on, why am I doing these things? Why do I feel the need to keep doing my son's laundry or doing my daughter's shopping? Like, why am I doing that? What is in me that needs that?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now let's flip. Let's go look at another angle. Okay. So we did the parenting side and how the parent can actually create the sticky situation, but the kids can too. Okay.
Sure.
And they're not totally independent. All right. There's a lot of things that they kind of add to each other. But one of them, just plain and simply, is kids get stuck in the comfort zone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, why should I move out? Like, I've got this entire basement to myself. Check it out. Over there, I got the fridge. I got this widescreen TV.
Why would I leave?
Man, like, this is pretty sweet. And mom and dad really don't bother me. And so parents, you're to blame in that maybe you've allowed the comfort zone to be created. But the idea, like, why would they want to?
Yeah.
It's just too nice.
I love that movie, Failure to Launch, with Matthew McConaughey. Besides the fact that he's good looking, like,
and
you always thought that
Terry
was
Bradshaw runs around naked in one scene too.
But the whole concept that he is like eating chips and salsa, and he's telling mom, "Hey mom, we're out of this." Like, why would I want to leave that? You know? And so his parents are like, "We've created a monster here. What are we going to do?" It's a funny movie, but there's an important concept there.
It's a sad reality.
Yeah, it is a sad reality.
Another part is very natural fear and anxiety. You know, there should be a little bit of anxiety when the day comes at 18, that 21-year-old that either is going off to college or going to get their own apartment.
It's natural.
Because, there's like, wow, I just don't know. Like, I haven't walked down this trail yet. So a little bit of anxiety is actually very healthy, because it sharpens your senses for making sure you do the right survival things, all right? But when it becomes the limiting factor, when it keeps you stuck, then we've got other issues. And so this is not something, the only way to break a fear, an anxiety, is to go after it head on. Now, that might be fast for some people and slow for others, but you have to desensitize that and slowly say, hey, no, go take a step out. Get another step. Let's do that.
I've got quite a few clients who are young adults who would literally say, I have a fear of adulting.
Yeah.
You know, they literally even have a t-shirt.
So do I, guys. I still do, okay?
But the reality is that they haven't had to do it on their own. Mom and dad have done it for them. And so the fear of doing it on their own is overwhelming to them. And so mom and dad, you got to hear that. Like, we're not equipping our kids to make them feel like, hey, you've taken care of a debit card, and you've taken care of your car and paying your bills. Like, you've already done that. So you're going to be fine. If it's all cold turkey one day, that is going to be overwhelming.
Yeah, just lacking the skills, right? Like they don't even know how to balance the checkbook or that. You know, here's one that I couldn't think of a really fancy word, so I'm just going to call it what it is.
What?
Some kids are just flipping lazy. Okay. And so the reality of it is we'd like to put some nice psychological term. They're lacking motivation. And guys, the deal
Which is kind of true.
Well, yeah. But that term lazy, it can really be that whole idea that there's no the immediate pressing need, no sense of urgency. And again, like, that's okay unless it's coming at the expense of other people. All right. So if you're doing a lazy Sunday afternoon and laying on the couch and it really is not affecting anyone, okay, I get it. But when it starts to impair or be a burden to other people, then the laziness really, we have to draw a line on that.
And that's exactly why, if you're listening and you have kids in other seasons, listen up. That's why you can't let your 14-year-old sit in front of a video game all day long. Oh, they're not hurting anybody. Oh, it keeps them out of my hair. You're not helping create this urgency of, oh, I've got to get a job, or I've got work to do, or I need to help around the house. We've got to help equip them so that when they leave, they're not sitting in front of a video for 8 hours in their new apartment.
Yeah, some kids are naturally busy and resourceful.
Yeah.
They're just naturally, they go from one thing to the next.
We got one of those.
Yeah, and then some kids, as soon as the agenda is taken off, they really kind of just shut down. And I'm not here to, blame and point finger. What I'm saying is identify that, and then don't just recognize it as, well, that's who they are.
Right.
No, I mean, listen, we're all wired a certain way, and if I don't realize how I'm going to have to get through that, and so I've always noticed with myself, if I'm in that lazy mood, which does happen occasionally.
Yes, it does. And
Linda, you don't have to jump on that so fast.
Me too.
Much less with you than me. Like, I actually have to go, okay, I need to go out for a bike ride or something, because I have to actually change my body. I have to mix it up a little bit. And invariably, when I come out from the bike ride or whatever, I'm ready to go. So something switches. But I learned that very early on as I was coming into adulthood, that I can't let the lazy just breed itself.
Yeah. So part of the work we do with teenagers and young adults all the time is helping them with this next one. And that is, what is my identity and my purpose? Why am I here?
Yeah.
And so when we have and we've said this over and over again, where there is no vision, the people perish. And so when your young adult has no vision for who they are and why they're here and what they should be doing, it is paralyzing, and it is really overwhelming to think, what step do I take? And so that's where a coach can come in, a mentor can come in, some counsel can come in to really help guide them into, okay, let's streamline your gifts and talents. What are your goals in life? What is it that are your passions? And let's find a place for you to belong and to move toward.
And so you push experiences,
yes.
right? Because
give it a try.
Each experience is the exposure to another opportunity to discover who they are, all right? And so sitting on the couch is not an exposure to a new experience. And so that's why we talk about this. Like, even if they have to go get a job and they don't like the job and they find out 6 months later they want a different job, okay, fine. They're getting exposure, right? So sitting is not going to work.
For instance, if they say they want to do healthcare, I want to be a nurse. Okay, well then let them go volunteer at the hospital. Or they say they want to work with their hands in cars. Okay, go work at a mechanic's office. And so
a mechanic's office. How about a garage, guys? How about we'll do a garage?
So, but if he doesn't ever get exposure to that, then he doesn't know. Like, I do want to work with cars, right? He can't just be all talk and no experience.
Yeah. Something we want to deal with as well and be aware of is, they're very well, as you kind of started the show, Hun, with this idea of sometimes there are really impairments, medical, medical health restrictions, addiction. Man, that one's been tough. Call those out for what they are, right? But don't let those be the reason why your kid gets stuck. All right. Instead, empower them to say, okay, well, this is your journey. How are you going to work through it? How are you going to educate yourself on your medical condition so that it can be minimized in terms of keeping you from being productive, help with the addiction, or at least not enabling the addiction. All right. So if those are the real deal that are holding them back, you have to move through them.
I'm thinking of Sarah again, and we were teasing with her, and she was talking about only God could put a nonverbal young adult in a speech therapy department. She's literally working in the area that has been her biggest struggle. And so that's only God. And God is the one that really guides and directs if we allow him to be in charge.
Yeah. And so, that kind of wraps up a lot of just what the contribution or lack of from the kid perspective. But let's now talk about, we're in the parenting role.
Yeah.
What can we do as parents to really help the process, keep it going, and make it healthy so that at one point we can go, you know what? Like, I do kind of feel a level of friendship, of a whole different level in the relationship than what I saw back when they were in their teenage years.
Yeah. So I believe our very number one role is to pray for them. You know, hon, we have been praying for not just our kids, but our in-laws, our daughter-in-laws, since before we met them. And it is so cool to be able to look at somebody and say, you know, we've been praying for you. We prayed for our kids before they were born about adoption and things like that. And so to see God work in those prayers. So, you know, we sometimes need to step back instead of helicoptering over them or trying to rescue them, that we literally let God do his job and we pray for them on a daily basis and let them know, hey, we love you. We're here to encourage you and we're praying for you.
Yeah, you mentioned the idea of encouraging them, you know, never falsely inflating. Right. Telling them they're great at something when they're really not. Okay. But the idea of saying, no, you got this. No, take the chance, take the risk. You're okay. All right. So as a parent, like, I want to be their cheerleader within the reality that they're in.
Yes.
Okay. And so that is just really important. As some parents can be very much naysayers. Oh, that'll never work. That'll never work. That'll never work. Get out of it. You're not helping them. All right. Yeah. Encourage them. Now, when they fail, all right, because guess what?
They will.
Okay?
Just like us.
They will, yeah. Allow them to fail.
Yeah.
Allow them to fail.
Don't rescue them.
Yeah, let them feel that whole experience, good, bad, or indifferent, because that's where the learning will take place. That's where they will become much more solid in the next decision they have to make.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah. And this one's hard for me. I mean, because we are coaches by trade, so we do this every day. And so it's really hard not to kind of put in your opinions and your advice giving. That's that usager thing. And so do not give advice unless asked. Okay. If your son comes to us and says, hey, Dad, I'm thinking of buying my first car. What do you think about this? Then he's giving you permission to give your opinion. But if he's like, hey, I'm buying this, you know, then, hey, we've got to let them figure it out. So do not lord over them with your advice and your opinions unless it's asked.
And when the advice that you give, if they don't take it,
which they might not.
Yes, you have to emotionally detach from that, right? Because that's more about you than it is about them. So if you say, hey, you know, if I were you, I'd probably do it this way, and they decide to not do it that way, all right, hey, that's part of it. Yeah. Part of it.
But that means you have to have boundaries, right? Because if they decide to go out and spend all this money, every dime they have on a car that blows up a couple months later, you got to put boundaries on. You're not going to just throw them some more cash. You're not going to take care of the problem for them. Okay. They're going to have to work through it. So please put boundaries on that, letting them know, and don't make it a surprise. Yeah. Don't make it a secret. Like, I'm not giving you any more money, or I'm not paying this bill any longer, or, hey, you've got 6 months until you're moving out. Like, give them a way to succeed and prepare in a reasonable format, but don't be like, hey, 5 years you got. Like that's way too long.
Yeah. You create the sense of urgency, especially for those kids who don't quite understand that. So, hey, kids, you just need to know, like, when you turn 21, we just won't be paying that anymore. Okay. Right. When you move out, this will now be your responsibility. Yeah. So you're loading that up front so your kids know, and it's not a threat or anything like that. They're getting to think about that and then internalize it, like, oh, so I'm eventually going to have to take over that bill.
Yeah.
You know?
I love the phrase that you wrote down. Just let them know and then let them go. Let them know and let them go. Don't surprise them. Don't be like, whoops, forgot to tell you this. Like, let them know ahead of time and then let them go. And what they do with it, you know, our daughter hasn't been working very much lately, and she continues to drive around and spend money, and she's going to really quickly feel the pinch, right?
I don't know. She's creating money. I think she's got a press back in her bedroom somewhere.
But, you know, we let her know, hey, there's no gas fairy. So when you're not working and you continue to spend money, it's going to run out. And so that's coming to a head very quickly.
That might be in the next show.
But you let them know, and then you let them go.
Yeah.
And the car's going to sit in the driveway when she's run out of gas and has no funds.
Yeah. So now they're starting to get into that time where maybe they are going away and they're not living under your roof every day. Man, now's the time to be intentional about the type of time. And this is the thing I miss the most with our older kids, our older boys. They're out, and they have their own family. And so now we don't just muddle in each other's life all the time. Now when we get together, it's very intentional, and we are intentionally enjoying each other.
Yeah.
Right?
As a matter of fact, I got my Virginia mug because we have one of our sons and his family lives in Virginia. And so I use this mug all the time. And when I'm using it, I'm praying for them. But it also makes me think of my Virginia kiddos,
Yeah. So the idea now, hey, I want to go camping with them, or I want to go to a ball game with them. We're not going to get into the weeds with work stuff or stuff that's heavy. Like, we're going to enjoy each other's company. And if every time we get together, we get into these struggles or old arguments or tension, why get together? Why get back with mom and dad? Is all they do is bring up this old garbage.
And that's usually because we are out of season, that we're still trying to be the authority to a 25-year-old, or we're still taking care of a 30-year-old, and we're resentful of that because we're still paying the bills and they're living their best life, and maybe even we're raising our grandkids, and so we've really got to be careful that we keep in the season that we're supposed to be in with the child that we're parenting.
Yeah, one of the coolest things that you can do. And if you think back of this, if you're in the parent role right now, is when you feel supported by your parents and they actually tell you how proud they are. My dad, I know your parents have said how proud they are of you and of us and our family. And now, like, every chance I have, like if I'm writing a note or a text, I'll just say, love you, man, proud of you. The idea here of letting them know, because whether you realize it or not as a parent, you have always been a hero in their eyes. You were their first superstar. And
in most cases,
if it's healthy, if it's healthy, right? And so now, when you say something like, man, I'm so proud of you, like, you just blow me away with everything that you do and the man or the woman you are, don't think that doesn't sit with them. I mean, that really does. That still builds them. And that's the encouragement that now when they're 28, 29, 30, 40 years old, they're like, wow, mom and dad still really think that, like, I'm doing things well.
Yeah. And no one knows how much time we have on this earth. We could be gone tomorrow. And so what's the legacy that we're leaving behind? Is it one of encouragement and love and support? Or is it of guilt and shame and frustration and anger? Like what do you want to leave behind? What is it that you want your kids in this season to remember about you? And so don't get in the weeds and try to disable their parenting style or their life course. You're there to show them you love them, that's unconditional, that you support them and encourage them, and that you're there for them as a friend and a counselor if needed.
Yeah. Disclaimer, as you mentioned earlier, if you see completely illegal, unhealthy, abusive, no, like, that's a totally different subject matter. Yeah, and we deal with that differently. But we're talking about people who are capable and are doing the things, in a healthy way. No, let them do it their way. All right. Yeah. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. One of the greatest gifts that we get as parents is when you start to see your kids raising their kids to know who Christ is, to know the values of Christ and the Christian faith. And so the idea that even though they might have been rebellious at a certain point in time, now when they have that little one that they're caring for, they're going, man, I want to do this right. Yeah. And so that is that whole Proverbs 22:6 thing. Like, that's how we keep the message going in our faith.
Yeah, that character, integrity, all of that. So, so hopefully you've heard something through this series that's been valuable. And we are really asking for you to help us spread the word, because maybe you're not in this season of parenting, but maybe there's somebody that is. And we need to know we don't have this all together. As I told you, I'm a recovering usager. And so I know that there are things that I need to do better in. And so, but we need each other, and we need to really understand this messaging that there are different types of parenting for different seasons of our children's lives. And so I hope you've enjoyed this series. Please, if you didn't get a chance to listen to all 4, go back and listen, because I think there's something valuable in each one.
If you have felt like you've listened to these and you're like, man, I kind of messed up in that season, right? No matter what season, all of these seasons, because people are growing and changing and we're living, they all have an ability to have a level of repair and healing and restoration.
Good point.
And so please, like if you find right now you've stepped on some of these landmines that we talked about in the parenting deal with this season. All right, like this is a great time to get some help.
Yeah.
And we deal with this all the time. Okay, listen, I know you're 80 years old, but maybe moving forward, here's how we could approach our kids that we're not in this constant tension when we're around each other.
Good point. Yeah, that's why we're here. So please reach out to us at rocksolidfamilies.org, or you can call us at 812-576-ROCK, 812-576-7625 if we can help you. And that's what we're here for, because like that's a perfect ending to that, hun, because there are going to be people who listen and feel like, man, I really blew it. And man, I wish I would have heard this years ago. And so there's always an opportunity to do better. And that's what we're here for.
All right. We want to thank Maxwell Construction and Casey's Outdoor Solutions again for sponsoring Rock Solid Radio. We want to encourage all of you guys to really spread the messages here of strong families and just really knowing why you do it, what your purpose is in the parenting world. So thanks again for listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time.
Make it a great day.
Boom.
You shocked me there.
I threw you off. Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They offer a wide selection of high-quality plants, landscaping materials, and home decor. They do amazing high-quality work and can help you transform your indoor and outdoor living spaces into something beautiful. So stop by Casey's Outdoor Solutions today and let them know you appreciate their support for Rock Solid Radio. Visit Casey's today at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana.